We have to have you fill us in a bit on the impact of the Dude, Where's My Flying Car book. How are people responding to it? Are even automakers responding to the data you present?
They are. In fact, in some cases, they were already there on some of this. So like the book on the cover, and this, I've moved from a skeptic to a believer. I was probably, when I started this project, I was a skeptic, but I'm a believer that flying cars are coming. And I've moved from the basic question of if it's going to happen to the more immediate question of when. And what has moved me is where the investment is coming from to make that happen. And the investment's coming from three distinct industries. And those are aircraft manufacturers, including Boeing, Airbus, Bell Helicopter, Textron, Embraer out of Brazil. Secondly, the airlines, including, but not limited to, United, American, Delta, JetBlue, and Southwest here in the US of A. And then followed by the automakers. And that includes Honda and Hyundai and Kia and Toyota, Mercedes-Benz and BMW, VW and Audi, and Stellantis, the former Chrysler. And then they're cross-investing. So like the one on the cover is invested in by Delta Airlines, by Toyota, and Toyota has over $1 billion invested in Joby Aviation. So it really opened my eyes up to what's going on. And if I hadn't been to their headquarters or their factories, met their CEOs, and spoke at the Oshkosh Air Show last year and other things, I wouldn't have realized just how close we are to having these vehicles in the air. And it'll be a game changer. It really will.
I have to ask, is there an awareness that a low price of entry is going to help increase people's experience with those? This is not probably cheap technology.
It's not cheap technology. No, you are correct. I'm preaching that to them as well. That you've heard the phrase, and I think it's a really important phrase, less is more. So the less you have to charge out the door on this new product, the more of the new product you get out the door. So less is more. I think they get that, but there's obviously, all of them have huge initial investment that they have to keep an eye on. How do we recover our initial investment? That'll all come back to them multifold, I think, over time, for the most part. But they do have to, from a fiscal standpoint, figure out how they get the ROI, the return on their investment.
What's your guess on when might we be able to go rent flying cars in our local communities?
Specifically, what Chris wants to know is when is Mark getting his damn flying car? That's what Chris wants to know.
That's what I want to know too, by the way.